Welcome all, this is Koal05 giving you another Dark Souls 3 Cinders Mod update. This video is for 2.1.5 and overall this mod gives a couple of updates to a number of bosses, some visual effects for some weapons, a couple of new weapons, new spells, and overall a really decent feature that I hope you like. To start us off here, we have a number of changes to many of the bosses. I won't go through each of these points in detail, but overall they make the experience either visually better or mechanically better. Take for instance here, in Yorm's fight, remove the rubble rain there and reduce some of the damage of the fire pillars that spawn inside the area. To me, this reads as if you're trying to do a no hit or no death run, a bit more predictable where you're going to get some of those area of effect damages there. So overall, very nice changes with all these. If you need any more specifics, yeah, definitely go to the wiki. This will be in the description below to read any of these specifics. Next, there are adjustments to a couple of classes, being the Guardian and Royal Warden here. I'm not sure what these are, as they just say adjusted, and I'm not familiar with those classes, but I'm guessing they're for the best there. Next, we have a number of changes to the weapons here. I won't go over all of these points individually, but I will demo a couple of these points and really just highlight here that the Frostfall has now changed from fire to magic damage, as well as the Ivory Ultra Gate is now changed from fire to magic. I demo a couple of weapons here now. We got the Smolter Sword. This is infused with fire, so it'd be very typical as you'd expect there. And this one's infused with magic, so then you get this magic effect here. Really a nice blue effect there. You can sort of role play as the blue smelter demon. Here we have the Flume Ultra Great Sword. So here is the special weapon up there to match the bosses, and then the slated weapon. And here we have the Ring Crystal Shield and its weapon art. Improvement to that. Next we have a couple of new weapons, the Stone Great Axe and the Giant's Bow. Demonstrate this now. Stone Axe here, big old overhead, nice weapon up there. So Stone Great Axe has Quake for its weapon art, and the Giant's Bow has Pierce Earth as well. Next we have a couple of changes to the weapon art, so namely the FP recovery, it pauses during their attack animation. So these three weapons all have spinning attacks. I assume this is to remove the spin to win, hold this up for as much as you can sort of thing. It also is adjusted for your great bows, and crossbows. Next we have a change to a couple of weapons Infusion models, so this would be a visual effect here. Here we have the Dancer's Blades uninfused, and then infused in dark. And now the weapon art of the Dancers. Not too much of a visual change with that. And now Lorien's Greatsword uninfused, and now infused with dark. That weapon art, now in dark. So now we move on to a main feature of this update. It's now that pistols, or the Bloodborne weapons, can now parry enemies. It's a great way to kick on your role playing. So the blunderbuss, it affects enemies in a semi-different way, and it gets a little bit more of a stagger on them. Here I'll parry this Black Knight with the Evelyn. It's not as fast as I would like it to be, and every now and then you'll shoot to the side of the enemy and not directly at them. Overall, I'm most excited about this feature added to the game now, and it's a great way to roleplay and play through. Alright, next we have a number of changes to the spells. Again, I won't go to each in detail. Many of them are visual effects or name changes, but I will highlight a couple. So here I've just color-coded some of the points. The orange is namely just a name change, visual effect or special effect change. The green is a bit of an effect change there. So the first one there, slightly increased the hit radius of the pulsating mud. I did mention in my spell review for the pyromancies that had a weird sort of hitbox. I may review that. To change the cast animation for the Soul of Eruption and Soul Explosion to Wrath of God. So it's just a name change here, but it also changes their damage, reducing their damage to 80, and also just how they work. Curious about what that means, bit ambiguous there. Hidden Weapon also reduces the enemy target priority. So if you're in a group, if you're ganking up on something and you're squishy, you can put your Hidden Weapon on, and it's likely that enemies will have a lower priority, less likely to attack you, more likely to attack your mates. The Chaos Beam, yeah, so now is affected by walls. As then it's removed its wall penetration. So increase the damage of the sunlight stake, good, but I'm not sure how much or radius or anything. But anyway, yeah, increase the damage over time from the broom fireball as the one just above it. So that was previously incendiary. So now, yeah, as I said, damage over time. It's up to 20. And then the final point there, adjusted several spells to be affected or not affected by spell deflection. So yeah, if you're pairing those spells, a couple more to add to your list and a couple to remove to those ones that can and cannot be deflected. Next we have some added spells. I won't demonstrate these spells in this video. I will update my sorcery and my pyromancy spells to include the newly added ones in 2.1.5, and when I come to my miracle spell video, I will add these new ones into 2.1.5. But overall these spells are pretty impressive, some of them being quite late game, and it'd be interesting to play with these and see their effects. A couple of minor changes to items here, so change the spell items of some items. Hope that means they increase the souls. And Yengivel's Crystal now boosts magic absorption. Not really familiar with that item, so I'm not quite sure to comment there. Next we have a couple of visual and sound effects here, so just more quality of life stuff, either reducing the sound of some, reducing the brightness of glow of other spells and weapon arts. Next we have a minor visual effect to the Crystalline Stars body effect. This could just be me, but I'm not seeing the body emission for the Crystalline Stars. We have corrupted crystals and your magic crystals, white stars, prismatic stars, but I don't believe that is the same name as what that update says. However, that could just be my interpretation of this and where I'm looking to get that effect. Next we have a couple of treasure changes here. That the deacons will now drop the small doll, kind of as they used to. I'm not sure if this will affect your progression, in that the doll is needed to progress into the Irithel. So that skeleton ball will now drop a Titanite slab. I believe this is how it used to be as well. And now if you want to fashion souls, I believe the black pot that you can put on as your helmet can now be dropped by the Pot King Greg. And finally we bring to some bug fixes. I'll highlight a few main ones here. Highlighted in green here is a couple of bug fixes that I will draw your attention to. So Slicing Wind spell should properly work. So I believe this is a miracle spell, and I'll be able to demonstrate this when I get to my miracle spell video. Fix the arrows from the Ghostly Assault and Extended Ghostly Assault, so they will now collide with walls and not penetrate through there. So I did bring this up in the last update video that the Gafud signet was not affixed. It can now be affixed up to +5. As well, the Master of Corruption achievement, it can now be completed, and all of the malices are now correctly working. I had mentioned in the last video that I found it difficult to interact with one of the boss's fog walls. These are now fixed, and I have gone through my gauntlet mode and defeated all the bosses and gained the achievement rewards. I also added a couple of items back into the gauntlet mode shop, which is great. Yeah, a way to collect all your weapons and items if you're wanting to PvP very quickly, or wanting to do the boss rush mode here. Next, on to some of the throwing weapons and projectile weapon arts. They will now provide the effect of the weapon's infusion. The Calamity Ring will no longer provide a damage boost, as it wasn't intended to. The next point about the animation of the White Dragon Breath, I mentioned this in my sorceries video. The animation was showing the beam casting off to the angle to the right. It should be firing to the straight now. And fix the Black Scorpion Stinger. So this is out of Dark Souls 2, as well as the Sanctum Mace, again a Dark Souls 2 weapon that will inflict poison. This has now been correctly modified so that poison is actually inflicted when infused. So overall, a shorter video for the 2.15 updates here, but a great amount of progression and inclusion on this update. My favorite feature on this is the ability to parry with the firearms from the Bloodborne weapon consortment there. Overall, thank you for watching here, and I will have an update video to my sorcery and pyromancies should be coming out later this week, as well as a miracle build to follow, miracle spells to follow. This has been Koal05. Take care. Goodbye.